Hello developers, welcome back to Elixir Pro. In this video, you're going to learn how to create relation between entities with Elixir, but also you're going to learn how to use schemas to build kind of a Discord, and also you're going to have amazing tips to create relation and insert data in database with many to many, has many, belongs to, using associations. So let's go back to the video. So let's start. The first thing is to create a project, which you can see that we are not gonna use the no HTML, no webpack, but we are using the binary ID. This is the important steps that you have to do before to create a project. And the project is mix PHS neogen schemas. So now the first things after doing this, you can see that I opened the project here, but also I just executed the mix setup, and we have the debugger here to keep follow the steps that we are going to create this database. So the first thing is we are going to create a migration, but also not creating just the migration, but creating the schema to have more performance to create some informations in database and data structure. So the first thing is you can go to your terminal here and you can follow this step. You can use the mix phs.gen schema. The schema's name is user. The table is users. Also, the email is going to be a unique field. And you're gonna have the first name and last name. This is the first thing. When you do this, you can see that you create a migration, and inside the migration you can see that you have the user. In the same time, you created a unique index here. And if you go to the folder lib.gen, you can see that you have the schema users, which is the table, this one, and you have all the validations to create a new user. So for keep doing some things, the first thing is you can delete everything in the seeds. Also, you can pick the user, like an alias. And now, just because you have the user here, you can start creating some data here. The first thing is you can create a user and passing like an user dot genset, passing the struct user. Also, you have to put some data. The first one is going to be the email, which you can passing like gus@gus. Second one is the first name, which is in this case Gustavo, and the last name is going to be Oliveira. This is one of the examples. So after that, you can use another thing, which is the repo, to insert into the database, like repo.insert, and also you can use the io.inspect to see what's happening. So let's execute the mix exo.reset. Okay, let's see what's happened. Can't be blank last name. So this was my mistake. So let's execute the command. And now you can see that we created the user, and every user can create teams. Every user can have many teams. So the teams that we are going to create should have just the name, the team's name. And let me think about this. If it's going to be like a unique data, I think No, that's enough to us. Just you can create everything. So in this case, we're gonna use the mixed gen schema again to create a team, which the table is teams, and every user can create. So you can create a reference here, user, and so the team have a user and belongs to a user, sorry, and name. So great, you have created one. But one of the things that you think about here is how to insert teams when you create the user. This is one of the things that you have to thinking about. So to use Elixir, one of the advantages is like when you are creating teams, you can use the cast association to start put on lots of data. So to start doing this, it's kind of a relation here, which you can have in this case team. But I think we are not gonna use team in this case, but it's better when you have the user here, and the user should have these informations, but also the golden path should be like passing the teams, and the team you can have like a name, but like a list in this case. So the team should be like ELX Pro, one of the teams, and other one should be like name, and the team's name should be like supervisors and children's, something like that. I think this is enough to us. Also, now you can see that you have a list of teams for this user, which is the Gustavo. And if you execute this one again, you can see that you have success, but you don't have the teams mapped here. So if you go to the beaver, go to the database schemas, you can see that you're gonna have like the teams here. You can see the data, and unfortunately, no, there is no teams here. For creating teams here, you can use this one, this user, and now you just need to create a relation which user has many teams, and you can pass in here like the schema, which is team, and you can pass the team here. So now let's start execute this command again to see what's happening. Probably it's not gonna work because I am using the database here, so it's better to execute the actor.reset again. Now you can see that you start having the teams here, but if you go to the seeds, after you insert, you can use the repo.preload teams and see what's happening if you can charge the teams. Now you can see that you are passing to teams, but you don't have teams here. To start insert the teams when you create the user, you can use the cast association. But other things that I think would be better we do is we have these informations here. You can reply, not reply, but remove this and put a variable module, which fields should have these informations. I think that would be better to us to understand what's happening here. But now for start inserting teams when you create the user, you can use the cast assoc, passing the teams with team.changeSet. This is enough to us to start creating teams. So now let's execute the command again. You can see that when you create a user, you can see that the user created 2 teams. This is an amazing tool, and each team you can have a lots of projects there. So for creating this, you can using the actor.schema. No, sorry, gem schema. I got gem schema projects. Title should be unique. Team ID should have references with the table teams. Cool. When you created this, you can do the same steps when you create the cast association, but for teams. So now you understand that you can have as many. Now creating an alias here. Schema project has many projects, which is the relation is with the schema project. And now let's do a simple steps here, which you just need to put the association with the projects. And now to start inserting this is really easy. You just need to split teams here like a list. So that's cool. And now you can pass in the projects, which is a list here, and project should have a title, just a title. So let's put a title like this team have the project, which you can call project going to call actor classes. Now you can create another team, another project, sorry, which you can pass like title. The team is going to create an SaaS Elixir project. And this team supervisor and team and children should have projects list. And now you can pass in like title should be like under study master class hacker hack. I think that's enough to us. So we have organized here, and when you using the preload, in this case you are just returning like projects, and in this case we can return like teams, and teams we can return like projects. This is a big relation between preload and teams and etc. So let's execute the actor.reset again. Now if you see that, you can see the user has many teams, and many teams and each team has many projects, and we have the relations here between the teams and projects created here. This is one of the amazing tools that when you are using the cast association. So let's go ahead and create another relations between this project. It's kind of a Discord in this case. And now another thing that you can do, it's like user can invite, user can create invites. And one of the things that you're thinking about here is how to create the invites and who can create the invite. In this case, we are going to create an invite. An invite should belong to a user and a team. The invite belongs to a user and team. And to create this relation, it's really easy. In this case, you can see that you're going to have a list of user and a list of the teams. And to create this schema, you can use the schemas invite, and the table is going to be invites, which you can pass the user ID references to users. Team ID should have references to teams, and the email for the user that you're going to invite is going to be, I don't think that we have to use the unique in this case, but just the email. I think that's enough to us. And now, just because we have this information here, you can see that you have the user, and you can pick in this case, the user ID, and you can pick some other teams, like in this case, you can thinking about this one, and just pick the first team in this case. So now you can pick the first team, like team, and I don't care about all of the other datas. And to start creating an invite for a user, you can use like change set, passing the user ID, team ID, and the email. This is really interesting how to create that. It's kind of similar this one, but in this case, you can pass in the invite here, and let's remove this one and pass in the invite change set. And if you see that in change set, we just have the casts for the email. In this case, one of the things that you should pass to create an invite is the user ID and the team ID. So in this case, the best things to do is let's do a cast association with the team ID and user ID, and you have to use all of these fields. So let's using the fields here, like in variable modules, and let's remove this one. So now great, we have some change sets here, and to create this change set, you just need to pass here in the seeds like a map, which is user ID with the user.id and team ID, passing the team.id. Also, the email can be like test@test. I think that's enough to us. Let's see what's happening here. Let's use the actor.reset. Let's see what's happening here. You have the validation required, which is the email, team ID, and user ID. And we can see that line 32, it's going to be like user ID, team ID. Let's see what's happening here. I don't know if it should be in the same sequence here. Let's test this one. Mail, team ID, which is this field. Let's see the user ID. What's happening here? I think it should work now. In this case, this is invitations. We don't need to use this one. Expects fields in name invalidate required, and that's the problem. I forgot to remove this one. I think now it's going to work. And now you can see that you have the invitations, the projects, and teams. If you go to the database here, in this case, you can see that in the table, the database, public tables, you can see that you have the invites. here, which is the invite for this email. This is the user ID who invited, and this is the team that this user that you can create that is going to have the is going to have access for this team. So when you go to the project, you can see that you have 3 projects here, which has relation with these teams. You can see that you can have the teams here and the users. So looks great, but other relation that you have to create, it's about what the teams that user belongs to. For example, you can see that you invited a user, but this user is going to have a relation with this team, and another all of teams should have to have many user, and many user has many teams. So you can see you have a relation between user teams. So other things that you can create here is what user have belongs to a teams. So in this case is a relation many to many, and for creating this you can create a middle schema, and you're gonna understand how to create a relation many to many teams. And to do that you can use the phs-gens schema user team. User team, this is going to be the table, and this is a many to many relation. You can use the references users, and team ID should have a references to teams. So now one of the things that you should do, it's like a relation between those tables, and in this case a user has a relation with the teams, has many teams, and many teams has many users. This is the relation that you can create, and for creating this in Elixir, this is easy to understand, and it's easier to understand, but in the same time you have many ways to do that. One of the ways that you can create this is when you go to the user table. You can see that we has many, because a user can create a team, but also a user belongs to a team. So for doing this you can use the many to many. The table is user teams, which we have created here, but also like this one. The relation is with the user. The final is this one. But one of the important things that you should do here is passing the middle, the table, which is going to create this relation. So to do this, you can use the join through, passing the table that the schema that you can create, or the table. In this case is the user team. Let's go to this table here, this is schema, and you can see that you have this relation. So now this is an amazing relation. It's really easy to do in the user side. You just need to put this one and passing the join through here, and say on replace delete. I think that's enough to us. You can do the same one in the team, like just put the relation here. In this case you can invert this, because team can, just because we can start access the user teams here, you can put like alias gen schema user and passing the user here. That's enough to us. But now to create this relation, you can use this relation in change sets in your user. So in this case, the best way is to pass the user and pass in team lists. So for do that, you can create like that user belongs teams or something like that, that you can pass the user and a list of teams. And in this case, you can pick the user creating a cast, passing empty cast here and passing these fields. And you can use the put association here with the user teams here, like this one, and passing the teams. That's enough to us. And to start inserting this is really easy steps to do. But in this case, you have to start to return like the user teams as an empty here, because we're not gonna create some relations here. So this is kind of relations that you can play after this video, like I want to return like the teams here or something like that, but that's up to you. So in this case, you can start using the actor.reset, and every time when you create a relation many to many, in this case, in this example, you should use like belongs to, sorry, not belongs to, but preload all the users teams that you can have in the user. So now looks great. You can see that you don't have, in this case, you can see that you have not associations, you'll not load the associations user teams. But if you go to the user, you can see that you have a loaded association with the user teams. And now let's start insert these teams. To do that, you can just create a new insert into the database. And to create this insert, you can do this like, let me think about, I have some examples here. Yes, that's enough to us. So you have the user here, this user here, and you just need to start doing this. Like in this case, you have the user and you have the teams, and in this case you have a list of teams that you can create this relation. So in this case, you can see that we have two teams, or in this case, yes, two teams that you're gonna create the relation. And to do that, you can pick the user dot update belongs to teams, and you just need to pass like user dot teams, which is a list in this case, and start using the repo dot update here. This is one of the relations that you can do here. And after that, I think we can have more updated to user using the inspect. But here, I think that's enough to us. And in this case, we can use the actor.reset. And now you can see that you have the user, and you have the user, and you see that what's the teams that this user has created. And you can see you have the user teams, which has the teams, and in the same way you can see that the projects here, and you can see there are another teams that this user belongs to. Let's play a little bit more, but in this case, creating a new user. Which is test, add test, and test. Oliver, I think that's enough to us. Like test. Let's insert this user, which is test here. And this is going to return the test user. I think we can do this one. I think that's better to us, because we're gonna pick this user, and in this case we can return all the, we can use this one too to return what's the relation with this user. And now let's execute again the actor.reset. now we got an error here because we didn't create the preload for the user teams. So let's using the repo.preload user teams. I think that's enough to us. And now you can see that you created a relation with 2 teams for this user. Also, one of the things that you should do in this case, it's like you have this team. But now this user is going to be just the first one team here. Let's understand more about these relations. It's because I didn't put in a list inside the list here. I think that's going to work because the quote association is waiting for a list here, and cool, it was created. Now if you see your tables here, you can understand more about what's happened when you go to gen schemas. When you go to the gen schemas, you can go to the tables, and now you can see that you have some invitations here, some invitations data. You can see that you have the projects, you see the teams here and who created these teams. You can see that you have 2 users, but when you go to the user teams, you can see that you have the users who belongs to each teams. So in this case, you can see probably this one belongs to the team, to these teams, which I don't know what's the ID, but you can think more about this. But if you go to the diagram here, you can see that you have the users. User has many invites, user has many teams, and team has many invites. Project team has many projects, and you see this relation, which is the many to many. User belongs to many teams, and teams belongs to many users. This is the relation that you have created here. But thinking about some permissions that a user can have in the teams, other relations that is good to learn is more about the has many. I'm sorry, not has many, but many to many. And to create many to many, in this case, you can practice this, create some permissions for the user. So let's create some invites that user can have. So in this case, this is one of the relations that we can create, but let's using like mix PHS gen schemas, permission. The table is going to be the permissions, name, which is going to be unique, and description could be like a text. So to start creating this, you can pass in here like permissions, and now you can create a permission to create invite. So for doing this, you can use the permission.changeSet, passing the permission, and let's thinking about this like a name, which can be like create and invite. Description should be like create invite to users join in the teams. I think that's enough. And now let's using the repo dot insert. Also, another permission that you can create is the create project. User can create project, but in this case, it's the permission create a project, and the description should be like user can create projects inside the teams. or something like that. That's enough to us. And let's create this using the actor.reset. In this case, you cannot see, you can just go to the dbeaver and verify if it was created. But I'm sorry, I will close this one and you can verify this. Let's use this one. But another things that you can create is role. And role in this case can be have the responsibility for what their users has some roles, or user team has roles, and what he can do, what the user can do. So in this case, you can create like a mix PHS gen schema roles. Table is going to be roles. Name should be almost the same, unique. Description should be a text. Let's just copy this, but of course we're gonna create like one role is going to be admin, moderator, and we can create the visitor. This is the 3 roles that you can create in this case. And now another things is going to be like an user role can have permissions, and to create this relation you can create like because in this case you can have a role which can have the permission to create invite and create project. You can see that you have role has many permission, and permission has many role, because you can use the permissions here to the permissions for this one roles. So in this case you can create another role, another schema, which is going to be like a permission role. Permission role that you can pass in here like permission ID, references to permissions, role ID with references to roles. Awesome. So to create this relation, you can just go to the, in this case, just go to the role. That's enough to us in this case. Using the alias to gen schemas, we need to use the permission, and we need to use the permission role. That's great. So in this case you can have the many to many, role has many permissions, and you can pass in here like the table, which is permission, and join through permission role on replace delete. That's enough in this case. So now you can see that you created these roles, and also I will refactor this for fields. Let's put fields here. So to create this permissions, you can put something like change sets like insert permissions or something like that, passing the role and permissions. You created this one a couple of minutes before. Passing the role, passing the cast, in this case it's an empty value, passing fields, and let's put an association with permissions and passing the permissions. That's enough to us. So in this case, to start using this, you have to create the the roles like admin, moderator, and visitor. And to start doing this, this is the same steps that you have created a couple minutes before, which is you have to create the preload, repo.preload permissions. This is going to charge these informations here. So now just let's copy this one and put in the moderator, because we are going to create some permissions for a moderator. And to update the permissions and to insert the permissions, you can pick, for example, the admin here, using the role that we don't have here, this. In this case, it's role and role. And let's refactor this because we just created the template here. The name of this role is admin. You can put some descriptions like allow user to do everything. And moderator, sorry, this one is for the moderator, sorry. Let's just rename here. And moderator, and you can pass in some descriptions like allow user only to create projects. This is the permissions that we can pass in here, and we can create like visitor, and visitor allow user, or user can do nothing. So in this case, we can use the role insert permission and passing some permissions. In this case, the admin, you can give the permissions for create invite and create project. And another thing is using the repo.update. So in this case, you can use the same for moderator, and moderator just can create projects. And let's charge all the informations for the user and for the roles. So to do that, you can use just the repo. Repo.all passing the role, and after you're passing the role, you can use the repo.preload permissions, and after this you can use the io.inspect to see what's happening here. So let's execute again the mix actor.reset, and we got some errors in the seats in line 47. That's the error here. Let's try again. And now you have created all the permissions and roles, and you can see that you have some relations between them. But another relation that you should create is what's the permission user can have. Sorry, not the permission, but the roles. So for creating this, the easiest way is to create a relation between the user teams with the roles. This is one of the relations that you can map here to start using the permissions and the roles and the user teams together. So to do that, you can create another relation, which is mix phs gen schema. In this case, you can create like Let me see one of the examples that I have here for a simple time, for creating this. You can create the role user team, and now you can create the role user teams role ID references to roles. And now you can go to the user teams here, which is this one, user teams ID references to user teams. That's the relation that you have to create to start this relation. And now to create this one, you just need to pick, for example, the user team, all the user teams, and after you pick this user teams, you can pick all the roles and start put this relation between them. So to do that, you can go to the seeds here. Now you can see that you created a lot of them, and I think you learned how to use the seeds and at the same time creating some relations. And in this case, you can use the repo.all and passing the user team. And in this case, you can pass in like user team, this one, user team. And now let's see what's happening here. Echo.reset. And now you can see that you have three preloaded, and in this case you can pick some of them and pass in the roles. And to pass in the roles, we can do the same one here, just passing the roles. And let's understand what's happening with those tables. Let's see what's this is a problem here. Now you can see that you have some roles here, and you see that have some permissions and etc. But the most important here is that you just need to pick one of the user teams and see what's the relation. So just pick the first one. Now you have the rest here, and just in this case pick the role, the first role, like role 1. I don't care about what is this role in this case. And now let's create in this relation. So one of the things that you have to do is go to the schema, because now you have the many to manys. You can go to the user team, and in this case you just need to start put the many to many here, like many to many. User team has many roles, and roles has many teams, user teams, sorry. So in this case is roles. You can use like an alias, passing the role and role user team. So in this case, you just need to pass role, join through role user team, replace, delete. That's enough to us. And to create, you can create like insert roles, something like that, passing the user team, passing a list of roles. And in this case, just use this one, like cast, and now passing this one too, using the put association for roles here. and passing the roles. That's enough to us in this case. So let's go to the seeds again. And then in this case, you have the user team. You have to use the preload roles, because even if it's an empty list, it's better to you to start using this. This is some of the practice that you have when you use the many-to-many. And in this case, you can just use the user team, insert roles, and just passing the roles here like role 1. I think that's enough. And let's use the repo.update and io.inspect. That's enough to us in this case. Let's execute the acto.reset and see what's happening. Wow, we got an error on the finite column. User team does not exist. And we have some references like user teams. Perhaps you meant to references to column user teams ID. And in this case, let's see here, user teams ID. Yes, we have this one. And also we can go to the, let's see what's happening here with this relation. Let's go back to the role user teams, user team ID. Also, when you go to the permissions, I don't think that's enough. It's necessarily to us. User teams, that's the relation. Let's see, user team ID, probably all user teams. That's a hard relation, that, because in this case is roles join is trying to create with role user team ID. So in this case, the best way to us is to create this relation, but with this kind of these informations here in the schema. And you can go to the role user teams and put this association. I think this is going to be enough to us. Let's go to the seeds again. I think that's enough. Just remove these relations. And now you can see we have success. Whoa, a lots of jobs and a lots of learning things in this video. So let's go to the localhost, and if you go to the localhost, you can go to the schemas here, go to the public, and you can see, let's start seeing the diagram, and you can see that we have some relations like a permission role here. That's a big relation here. You can see we have the invites here. And in invites you have the teams, user teams, and etc. You can see lots of things that we've learned. So you can go to the invites, permission roles. You can see that all the permissions that we have. You can see the permissions, and I think it's better you study a little bit more about that. You can see the role user teams, which you have this role ID and this user team. So if you click on here, you can see that this role user team who has this permission is the user Gustavo Oliveira. If you go again to the role user teams, you can see that you have the Gustavo here in role user teams, You can see a lot of the data have some relations between the data here. That's awesome because you have created this one, and you can see we have a lot of relations here between the user, between the teams, between the real user teams. You can see the relation, what's the relation that we have here. That's amazing. So I hope you guys learned a lot about Acto schemas. This is an amazing tool when you know how to use. This is amazing when you know how to map the data. And also, if you want to learn more about, it's better you understand about the context, the schemas, and the other generators. Hope you guys enjoying this video. Give us your like and share with your friends, and bye bye.